I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Brattleboro Housing Partnership. First order of business is to review the minutes from the January 14th meeting. Any additions, corrections?
I move they be
Do I hear a
accepted.
motion? Excuse me?
I move they be accepted.
Thank you.
I'll
Do I hear a
second that.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay. The minutes are approved. Resident and community participation. We have no residents or community members here. So COVID-19 update, Christine.
Just to let the board know, we have secured a way to have testing once a week, which I think we are going to start, even though now it feels a little late. We had a hard time finding a place that could do like a small group. So we have secured that. I think we're just going to go forward with it regardless, because we never know what's going to happen. We've been very lucky to have some rapid tests for the office in case staff members needed them, but we've been following the protocols that we've continued to follow, including masking, and we will probably continue to mask staff regardless of what the select board determines tomorrow, and then make staff masks, recommend that people wear masks at our housing sites, but not require it, because it's at this point it's hard to keep track. So we're following the town guidelines, and we'll see what happens from there and make a determination after that.
The next, the property review and property management report. Comments, questions from the commissioners?
Oh.
I'm assuming, Christine, that the low percentage of collections for A.W. Richards, Hayes Court, and Moore Court, and Ledgewood Heights all represent the shortage of jobs and reliable funding because of COVID.
I think we have some incredibly large balances at certain housing sites. So we have some incredibly large balances. We have people who are connected to the VRAP program and are continuing to apply to have those funds to paid. As you can see on the first page, we've already received over $100,000 in VRAP funding for rents. So we do have some large balances just at some of the sites. I think for Hayes Court, we have a couple of large balances that just are not write-offs yet, but they're people who have left the residency because they're, either they went to a higher level of care or deceased. So, it doesn't take a lot to really skew that number, but definitely at Moore Court and Ledgewood, we have some residents carrying some very extremely large balances that we're hoping will be rectified through the VRAP program.
Great. And SASH.
I think Byron has a question.
Oh, sorry, Byron.
Wondering when that program is likely to end.
My understanding is June 30th.
And at that point, have people gotten sort of unfortunately accustomed to that subsidy?
I think that some people have relied on it a lot. I think that it really shows that many of our residents struggle regardless of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I think we haven't evicted anyone for lack of payment. in some time, which I think really shows that this program really has been able to support people who have been able to, who are maybe unable to pay their rent in the past. So, you know, we're hopeful that we will get a lot of these back rents paid before the program ends, so that people really are in a place where they can, you know, go forward with success. And we will continue to work with people. Hi, Alicia. We'll continue to work with people to, you know, support them in accessing any resources in the community.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Alicia, you're here. Wonderful. Welcome. We are just moving into the resident wellness and services report. We've looked at the property review, and now we are on to purple.
Great. Christine, I just have one question. Did we offer, I thought it was mentioned that we did, COVID testing to the residents? Did we have any clinics that were set up?
We weren't able to secure COVID testing specifically. We have been giving out rapid tests for people who have identified, we haven't given them to everybody. We don't have enough to do that, but anybody that the SASH program has identified that needs one, we have done that. And then we've continued to have people connecting them to testing in the community, but we haven't been able to secure a regular testing at our sites. We would like, you know, if we had enough staff, it might be beneficial to do that. But right now it seems like the rapid testing is helpful for people. We did have the vaccine clinics, which you might have, yeah, and that was very successful. So that was great. We were able to secure that with the Department of Health.
Okay.
In the wellness and resident wellness and services manager from
Right.
Lorelei Morissette. Yes, Byron.
I just wondered how the search for the employment and education coordinator is coming. It sounds like
Yeah, we've really, you know, to be honest, we have a few applicants that we've interviewed. We had a interview scheduled for Friday, and I think that person did not end up being interviewed because of the snowstorm. And so I think they're rescheduling. We also have another person, two good candidates that are scheduled to be interviewed in the next week or two. So that's a good sign. We didn't get a tremendous amount of resumes. So we did post it in the newspapers. We posted it on Indeed. We posted it on one other portal, you know, online platform. No, I can't think of the name of it, but a different place. And so we did, you know, we got a lot of resumes, but really not the type of qualifications that we're looking for, more entry-level position qualifications.
And I wonder if it would make sense to let the Vermont Affordable Housing Coalition know they publish job openings.
Oh, I can. That's a great idea.
Is sometimes a good source.
Yeah, we did put it in with the state. So the state website, I know we put it there as well. But I will send it to the Vermont Affordable Housing and see if they can post that as well. We did put it with the state, and we also had it distributed through, there's an email chain that goes out through Sue Graff. She has a list of all the people in the community, service providers. It's a wide net, and so she did put that out twice.
Good.
Any other questions? We can move on to SASH Flash, which is always both interesting to read and so attractively done.
I love the February facts.
Hmm.
And today is my husband's birthday. See, it's supposed to be the 29th. So,
So I was just,
Today.
as Liz pointed out, the odds of being born on February 29th are about 1 in 1,461. So,
Well, my daughter is tomorrow, so she just missed it. If it had been a leap year, she would have been a leap year baby. So she's a March 1st baby.
well, that's funny, Christine, because, well, we have an employee at the bank who has, the 29th as well. But my husband's sister is March 1st.
Hmm.
Happy birthday to everybody.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, right. But this is always well done.
mhm. I'd like to just look quickly at the Resident Advisory Communications Committee. Our Ledgewood and Hayes Court didn't have people attend, but they're boosting attendance by having a raffle of $10 for those who attend, starting with Dunkin' Donuts.
I attended this meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's an incentive that they're going to start this month. And so I think, hopefully that will gain some traction. And I think what would be helpful, when we meet again in person, we do like a nice lunch. It's always nicer to meet in person in general, and we do a little lunch, and that really does make people, it's a little more engaging. It feels more social. I think people really got a lot out of that. I think that will be really nice to start that up again.
In the past, we've tried to have advisory committees for each of the residences.
Mhm.
And many of them went for a while and then sort of petered out. So this was the solution. As we begin to go back in person,
Mhm.
is there more thought of trying to spread them to the various residences? Or is this,
To have them at sites.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that would work better to have it on site, and to offer lunch we seem to get a much bigger turnout when we did that.
mhm,
And we were, we had about, we always would have about 6 to 8 people, 9 people, so it really felt like more of a group. It has been really challenging on Zoom. And, I think Lorelai does a great job. She gives little gift bags. She gave like something for the holidays. She really tries to continue to engage them. The positive side is we do have representatives from some of those sites, and they do continue to get all the information. So they get the notes from your meetings. They'll work with us. They worked with us on the strategic planning process. Even people who didn't attend, we called. So I think, we're really trying to, even if they don't get a lot at the meetings, continue to engage them on a regular, make sure that they're involved.
Right.
And hopefully it will pick up again once people feel safe meeting in person.
and then the green, the Section 8 shelter plus care transitions to housing. I was noticing under the shelter plus care that David said we're still challenged by our local supporters service agencies' inability to provide case management, as they report that they're at capacity of what supports they can offer. Are there any other agencies that would be appropriate?
So if you remember last year, we did reach out to Pathways to Housing, or Pathways Vermont, to become also a provider, and they did agree. And so I think they are working with 1 or 2 people. So they are taking on some case management capacity. We do continue to look out into the community, whether it's SEBCA or HCRS. I think we will continue to do that. so one of the pieces, and this will be coming up as we talk about our proposed change to the Mainstream Voucher Program. So, under the Shelter Plus Care Program, it's a requirement to have case management. And some of the people have been on the program for a long time, and they're pretty stable. They really don't need that continued case management, although it's a requirement. And so about a year ago, when we applied to the Mainstream Vouchers, we thought that it would make sense to offer a preference for some of the folks who, to offer a preference to people who were previously homeless. So, so you'll see on your agenda, and I apologize, there is a misspelling here where I said formally, but it was really formerly, but previously homeless applicants. So a year ago, we decided to have 25% of the Mainstream Vouchers be given a preference for those who were previously had experienced homelessness or at risk for homelessness. And this was a way for us to really transition people from the Shelter Plus Care Program off of that to have a permanent voucher in the community, because the Mainstream Vouchers also require that people, one person in the household is an adult with a disability, but they cannot be elderly. So it worked. We did a great job. We have transitioned many people. And so that's why David and I, had a conversation with our providers, and we said, what would make sense? Could we transition some people off of this so that we could make some room? And everybody thought that was a good idea. And that's why we have this proposal. And I know David really wanted to join us today, but he had a prior engagement. But we wanted to propose to increase the preference for the Mainstream Vouchers from 25% to 100%, so that all the people in that program, we can take from either our transitions program or a Shelter Plus Care program and move them out if they no longer need that intense case management.
So
I think
since
it's
we
very
are
wise.
there,
Yeah.
Liz, you had a question?
No, I just made the comment. I think it's very wise to do that.
And that's is where we are on the agenda. Are we at the point of being able to do a motion to approve an increase of preference for the Mainstream Voucher Program for formerly homeless applicants from 25% to 100% of the program?
So move.
Second,
Thank you. Byron, you're moving. Do I have a second?
second,
Thank you, Liz. All those in favor, please put your hand up and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion is carried. And we're at the financial review. I'd like to ask Christine if there are comments on rather large, small print for large ideas.
Yes, I apologize for the small print. There's really no great way of
There's no way
saying
to do it.
this. So,
Find it?
yep. So we do, so just a few things to note. So we're in the process of planning our fiscal budget for 2021, 2022. And in that, we've been really looking at a lot of these numbers. We actually have the January comparable. It has come in. It just it didn't come in time to send to you all. So you will be seeing that next month. You might even see it a little sooner, because I'll probably send you some drafts of the budget early so that you have an opportunity to ask me questions before the March meeting. And so some things to make note of: our administrative salaries are actually in really good shape. We have added a position, and in that we have stayed under budget, which is really helpful. I think we're in the process right now of balancing increasing salaries and adding new employees to the new budget. And so I think that is something that we're that's at this point probably going to be necessary. And James and I are both really thinking about the fact that right now we're in a really good position. We've received some very strong funding from HUD, but as you know, that can always change. And so we're trying to plan cautiously and make sure that we're spending effectively. We're also going to be doing some work at the property sites that's much needed, some things that had been sort of put on hold because of COVID. And so we're really looking at our funding sources just to do some of our contract costs and also to do some just additional work that just needs to get done on the properties. So we're building those things in as well as, looking at our just trash disposal, because that has been a large issue at our housing sites. So if you wanted to just make note, the admin salaries, we projected a little high. I think we're in really good shape. Our contract costs are also in really good shape. Again, just a reminder that could potentially change if we get a lot of snow in the next couple of weeks. We always keep an eye on that. We have been pretty lucky the last few years, but feels like we might be getting into like a little snow. Some people love the snow. For me, I don't love it because of the budgetary issues. Otherwise, it's beautiful. So we're just keeping a real eye on that. We're keeping an eye on our insurance costs. Those have gone up a little bit, and just other things that could be affected by the inflation, just office costs, etc. We are in the process of doing a mini audit of our office costs, so to see if where we could save a little money, and we've been learning a lot. So I think we're just in that process of looking at that. Our IT expenses have been a little higher than normal because we're transitioning from Steve, who had been our long-term IT person. He moved to Pennsylvania, and so he's working with us remotely, but we brought in Europa, who we had worked with for some time, to work with us as well. And so we're keeping an eye on those costs because we really want to project out to see if we're going to have a big increase. We did see a big increase during COVID, and over the last year, we're hoping that a lot of those costs were one-time costs that we will not continue to accrue going forward. Some of that included building some new office spaces and just equipment.
When James met with us, he highlighted the concern about costs at 1066. How is that going?
We are in the process of organizing a time to meet with Evernorth. So the tax credit for that program will be expiring in 2 years. And so we're going to be looking at how to refinance that building so that we can cover these additional costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions from commissioners? Then going to the summary checklisting report. Any comments on that? In orange?
Well, I do have one question. When the moratorium on asking people to move when they haven't paid their rent over a long period of time, is there an end date?
So the moratorium has ended. So we have been able to, for people who have just not paid their rent and have not applied to VRAP, we have started to go forward with an eviction. However, we haven't gotten to that point yet because we've been very fortunate that once people really know that it's getting closer, they tend to apply to VRAP. Okay. And legally it has been supporting people in that. So in many ways, we've been very fortunate that even though the moratorium is over and we could evict someone for non-payment at this point, we really haven't had to go in that direction yet. We haven't had to do that yet. We've gotten close, but once we serve, people tend to then they get connected to the right resources. And we do have staff connecting people to resources all the time. Our staff, I would say that the occupancy managers and the support staff have dedicated a considerable amount of time to this, to making sure that people are able to apply for those funds.
It just, do the funds have an end date for applications?
I want to say that I think it ends in June 30th. I think that is the end, but I will confirm for the board. I'm not entirely sure, but that's the number that I remembered from a while back. But I think that they're continuing to fund up until that date.
Okay, good.
And as I recall, the wellness and support staff have spent a lot of time meeting with residents to
Right.
encourage and plan for their rent to be paid,
Mhm.
even before COVID. Which
Yeah,
seems
it's
to be working well before COVID
Yeah.
disrupted everything.
Mhm. Mhm. And applying for other resources in the community
Mhm.
that might help to offset some of the financial strain. So whether that's applying to food resources or connecting people to, resources in the community to help them with
Right.
additional expenses,
Mhm.
that really helps in prioritizing rent. Rent can sometimes be the last thing to be paid because people have other things that they need to pay for first, like a car repair or something that comes up unexpectedly. So it can be really challenging.
And
So
check
connecting,
signing.
yeah.
In March, Byron, you're the designated signer. And in April,
Yeah.
Alicia. And I will take myself and add May. So May will be Janet. And Christine and I have talked, and I'm planning to tender my resignation in beginning of June. Or either the beginning or the end of June, depending on when the select board will be, I hope, designating a new commissioner. So looking for people who will fill the range of skills that make this board a really helpful one
Mhm.
will be important.
Did you say you're retiring as of the end of June?
I think so. And not think so, I know so, because I want to make sure that I stayed on the board after my my second first 5 years in order to be here when we did the moving to work and in the beginning of Christine's leadership. And I feel very confident in these commissioners and in the work that Christine is doing. So I want to make sure that the next commissioner can start with a 3-year term instead of the 1 or 2 years left of my term, which is how I'm planning it. And then have another five years or more on theirs. So the next step, unless there are further questions, is to go to the strategic planning. And I hope as many of you as might be possible really had a chance to read this document.
I think it's very well written and I really like what it says.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she did a great job. I think she did a good job listening to all the different aspects of feedback that everybody
Mhm.
gave and molding it into, something that we could use.
Yes, I
Indeed.
agree.
I would,
I did into Chris, sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I just want to say, a very big thank you to Maggie Foley for this. She did it. She really listened and she really did it in a way that she really identified some areas that I think, some blind spots that we might, just needed a little bit more focus on. And that was extremely helpful. So I wanted to say thank you to the board for allowing us to hire someone outside and for, trusting Maggie to do this work. Cause I think she did a job that exceeded my expectations. So I'm really feeling very grateful. That's all.
I think I had said at the last meeting that I came upon the 2015 strategic plan as I was going through files. And it was a very helpful plan. It gave us our new logo, it gave us our new name, and focusing on partnerships. But what really struck me with this strategic plan is that it is usable going forward. Are we meeting the marks that we've set for ourselves? And it is a very professional and very useful document. And the first thing that it recommends is a better board orientation. So, excuse me, Byron?
I would love to talk about that. I was interested to not find anything about it actually in the strategic plan.
But what it should be, or the fact that there should be, because it was in the strategic plan, we talked about the board's, the commissioners' feelings there was a need for it.
Yes. That was there.
Okay, anyway. Be good to talk about.
Unfortunately, your voice doesn't always carry on. So Byron, I didn't hear what you said last.
Just as I hope we can talk about it.
Okay,
Is that on the agenda for now?
this is our meeting, so we can, if you have some thoughts, I don't think we want to have a board orientation here, but we certainly can talk about the things that are important. To have a separate meeting. The memo to the Board of Commissioners talks about the important thing on page 1. No, it's page 3. The things that we need to do to learn about that we're defined by the HUD regulations, but also have the fiduciary responsibility.
Is this maybe a place where it would be helpful to have a 2-person committee where we give the board orientation some thought and come back with some
Yes,
suggestion?
I think that would be helpful.
If so, I would volunteer.
Okay,
I'll volunteer with you.
that would be
Great.
neat. So that looking at what we want to include and scheduling a special meeting for board orientation. Perhaps knowing that we're going to need to orient at least one new person to practice now before the end of June or end of May would be helpful. I would love to. I don't seem to be successful in not saying things, so I'd love to be part of it and then use that as a practice going forward. So Liz and Byron, thank you for volunteering. Do you want to report at the March meeting or before that?
Why don't we, I would say if we got together and reported at the March meeting, ideas.
Yes,
That work for you, Byron?
yeah.
Just get an outline
Great.
for discussion.
So just to be clear, would I be participating with the two of you as well, or I'm happy to do that. It's totally up to you though.
That would be great.
Okay. Would you prefer to meet on Zoom or would you prefer to meet in person? I'm happy to do either.
I would love to meet in person. I don't know that Liz wants to.
I'm happy to meet in person.
Are you okay? Or if you change your mind, let me know. We can meet in Zoom, but I think that might be helpful too. And so the first thing I'll send an email just to find a date that works for the three of us.
Good.
And there are some materials that Janet and I have reviewed a commissioner handbook and some other materials that I could send for you to look at. And you don't have to review it all before the meeting, but it might be just a good place to start.
This
Thank
is what Christine is talking about.
Janet, would you like to be a part of this discussion? Janet, would you like to be a part of this committee? Okay, fine.
No, I think it's really important that I not be part of it.
Okay. Okay, well, that's fine. That works for me.
Okay, so I will find a date and I'll send out a date. I'll try to get some, I'm pretty flexible, so we can find something hopefully soon, and I'll send some materials just to, if I don't get them ahead of time, we can always give them to you then.
Good.
And next on the strategic planning, number 7 is BHOI, Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc. And as went through the strategic planning, you can see it was a good idea that sort of fell by the wayside. It has been resurrected. And the thought in the strategic plan is that it will be something that can be larger than 5 members. We are limited to 5 by HUD, and a place where bring in community members who haven't been commissioners, as well as I won't say a parking place for old commissioners, but an opportunity to make use of the special projects that Brattleboro Housing Opportunity, Inc. The plan is to have 1 active commissioner on the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc. And I'm wondering if somebody today is interested at least to follow up on that.
I'd be willing to.
Lisha, that would be wonderful. I heard your interest in projects and this when you commented last time, and I was sort of hoping you would say you can do it. That's wonderful. Okay, we have finished the regular business. We need to go into executive session. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Thanks, Liz. Second?
Yeah.
Thank you, Byron. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Bye.
I just want to reflect that today's meeting has been very, very useful and very productive. That we have a committee to plan board orientation. We have a volunteer from the board to serve on the board of Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc. And we are clear that for at least the next 3 months, we are going to meet virtually and or in hybrid session at 4:30 in the afternoon. Do we hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Liz. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Byron. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you all. Good hard work. I really appreciate it.